Six Nations 2026, folks. Game number 2 sees the Italians taking on the Scots in Rome. It is an interesting game for both teams because if the Scots are going to be a contender, you absolutely have to win this game. And for the Italians, other than the Wales game, this is probably your best chance to get a win. You're playing the Scots at home. The last time you played them at home, you managed to get a win. So, yeah, important game for both sides to kick us off this Six Nations weekend after the French game against the Irish, which is getting underway very soon as I record this. Go through the squads which have been named, some of the kind of stats for both sides, the predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. The Italians have got a pretty long injury list, unfortunately. You know, Pedrello and Varney, a couple of their halfbacks are unavailable for this game. Capuozzo, their electric fullback, he's not in the squad. Lucchesi, Vincent, Trula, the list goes on. The Italians don't have the biggest depth chart in terms of the pure number of players they play, although it's better than it has been in previous years, to be fair, but those injuries will certainly, I don't know, just cut down on a bit of the X factor potentially you'll see on the park. But the starting squad is still pretty bloody solid. Fischetti, Nicotera and Ferrari in the front row. There's also no Riccioni for this one, so they are missing their big tight head. But Ferrari has been one of the main guys in recent years. Fischetti has been their main loosehead prop. So they're more or less at full strength by Riccioni in the front row. So they'll be looking to give the Scots a good go. And then Cannone and Zambonin is potentially a bit more beefy in the front row compared to when Rutzer plays. So they might be looking to bring, I don't know, a bit more physicality up against the Scots. Rutzer is still there on the bench, but it's just a different role for him not to be starting. And I quite like the back row, because for a long time they've had Zuliani and Lamaro as their either starting 7 and backup 7. This time they've just gone, let's play both of them, which I like, because Lamaro is the captain. He's an absolute workhorse on defense, absolute tackle machine. And then Zuliani is one of the best pilferers of the ball in World Rugby. So just play them both. It maybe means you're without a traditional number 6. You're kind of playing 2 7s, but I don't mind it. These are 2 of the best players in the team. Your captain and your best fetcher. Just give them both a crack, and then Cannone will have to do the physical stuff for number 8, looking to provide a bit of punch on the ball carry. Fusco and Garbisi are the 9-10 combo, so they do have a fair bit of depth at 9, despite the injuries at 9, because for a while now there's not been one guy in Italian rugby who has been their first choice 9. They don't have like a Gibson Park or a Dupont who just hogs all the minutes. They tend to rotate between different guys in different games, so Fusco has had a decent amount of game time. It's not like he's new to the international scene in that regard. And then the midfield is one of the more stable midfield combos, probably the most stable midfield combo in World Rugby with Menoncello and Brex. They have played so much test match rugby together in particular, but yeah, they just have a telepathic relationship. They know each other like the back of each other's hands. Menoncello is such a physical guy, and Brex, with the lines he runs, they are quite the combo. Scotland have got a really good combo of their own. I don't want to skip on them. We'll get to the Scots in a second, but these guys are class. And then Ioane and Liner on the wings. Liner's been on quite a try-scoring run in the URC. I think he's second equal for tries scored for a Benetton team, which has not been that flash this year. And then Marine is going to have to fill the boots of Capuozzo at fullback. He's kind of going to provide that bit of an extra second playmaking option, so maybe a bit more like when they played Tommaso Allen at fullback, who I think is also on the injury list. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Italians kick the ball. Bench-wise, Di Bartolomeo, Spagnolo, and Hassa, there's a little bit less experience there. Amongst the front row replacements, Ruzzo, as I said, is a big-time stalwart of Italian rugby, so he is going to get a game from the bench. Favretto is there. Then the back replacements, Alessandro Garbisi, Dare, and Pani. So, yeah, the Italian squad, although it is injured in many key positions, I still feel like they've put a pretty competitive squad out there. For the Scots, it is unusual to see no Duhan, no Darcy, and no Blair Kinghorn in the starting 15. Darcy is there on the bench, which is kind of an unusual pick as more or less a specialist winger. Usually they end up with utility guys on the bench, but Darcy is there on the bench, so if he's going to extend his try-scoring run for Scotland, it'll have to be from riding the pine. But I can't give Gregor much grief because the starting back three he has picked have been in pretty good form, but we'll get to them in a second. Front row, Schoolman, Ashman, and Xander Fagerson. It's great to see Xander Fagerson named and starting, because remember, he missed the start of the games in the Autumn Nation Series with injury. He missed a lot of rugby last year, so I'm hoping he can go on a good run of games. And I'm also hoping Gregor doesn't play him like 75 minutes, because even in his absence, I think the Scottish front row showed they've got some metal to them without Xander. It's not just about Xander. I've been certainly one of the guys who questioned a bit of the depth in the propping stocks in Scottish rugby, but I think in Xander's absence in particular, they held up all right. The New Zealand game in particular was one I thought the All Blacks forwards might crunch them, but nope, didn't happen. So I hope Gregor uses the bench. I feel like he's been a bit guilty of riding Xander into the dirt, but I mean, he's your best starting tight head, so you got to use him, but there's got to be a point where he's knackered and you need to bring on some of the other guys. So Schoolman, Ashman, and Xander, that's your starting front row. You'd be pretty happy with that as a Scottish fan. I think Cummings and Gilchrist, speaking of combos that have played a fair bit of rugby together, them and the locks is very familiar. And then I like the back row of Matt Fagerson, Rory Darge, and Jack Dempsey. I think you got a pretty good balance there. I know Matt Fagerson can kind of be a bit of a jack of all trades, but his high work rate and punch can suit number 6. Darge is an absolute machine at 7 in terms of his tackles, and then Jack Dempsey, you'll be looking for him to get on the ball carry at number 8. 9-10 combo is really unsurprising. Ben White and Finn Russell, those have been the first choice picks for Gregor for quite some time. It'll be interesting if they kick the ball a bit more, because Scotland, and I'll get to their stats in a second, have been a kind of low kicking side. I feel like at times to their own detriment. It is hard when you've got weapons in the back line not to want to spin it. And as fans, we always give teams grief that kick it a lot. We love seeing teams run it, but in the international game these days, kicking teams tend to do pretty well. Just look at England. Tuipulotu and Jones, we missed out on that combo a lot last year with Hugh Jones being injured. But those guys are back together at test level again. So two of the better midfield combos going up against each other with the Italian and Scottish midfields. And then, as I said, the back three. Jamie Dobie at on the left wing. Number 11 jersey. 7 tries in the URC. Been doing really well and can cover 9, so you do have the option to play Darcy on the bench, I suppose. I know Darcy can play more than just wing as well, but he's more or less a winger, isn't he? So Kyle Steyn there, Mr. Consistent on the right wing, and then Tom Jordan, who's another utility in himself. He is there at fullback. So you got some depth in their outside backs. You've certainly got some attacking weapons if you can leave out Duhan, Darcy, and Blacking on. Replacements, George Turner, Nathan McBeth, Elliot Miller-Mills. As I said, I hope Gregor doesn't ride the starting guys too deep. I mean, the way the game is going, the front rowers need to come on fairly early. That's just the way the game is played these days. That's how you get your best effectiveness out of your front rowers. Max Williamson and Gregor Brown are the other 2 forward replacements. Gregor Brown has come along leaps and bounds in recent times. And then 3 backs, George Horn, Adam Hastings, and Darcy Graham. So, yeah, they got some attacking weapons in the Scottish backline. They could have been tempted to go for an extra forward on the bench, to be fair, against the Italians, the Scots. But nope, it is a kind of traditional 5-3 for them. Some stats, as I said, the Scots, they've got such good attacking numbers. If you look at like their defenders beaten, it's really high. Clean breaks is really high. And not just against Tier 1 teams as well. I know they played a few Tier 2 teams last season too, but they're just really, really far behind everyone else in their kicking numbers. England kick tons and also have really nice attacking numbers too. So, I don't know. We've seen useful deep kicking games. You know, when you see like the Irish with James Lowe, that big cannon boot of his. You see the French with their little grubber kicks for guys like Bielbiaré to chase and whatnot. So, it just might be an area that we need to see a little bit more from the Scots. The Italians, they play with less possession. They play with less territory than their other sides. They tend to be a more lightweight pack, which is part of that. But when they counter, they still get really good attacking numbers. They are pretty good on the turnover one. And they are one of the sides who are quite happy to kick penalties to keep the scoreboard ticking over. So it is certainly one to watch with the discipline. Recent history between the sides is 4-1 in favour of the Scots, although last time in Rome was that one. So that'll be a little bit of a troubling one because, yeah, for the Scots, they are kind of being seen as in a bit of no man's land in this competition, with the three favourites being France, England and Ireland, and then the two wooden spoon teams supposedly going to be Italy and Wales. Scotland are just kind of there in the middle. If they are going to challenge for anything more than that in the middle spot, this game is an absolute must win. I think if you drop this one, then it's basically going to bugger your rest of your campaign, because you need to then go and beat France and Ireland and England. At least if you win this one, pull off your next big result, then you can kind of wait and see what happens. But, yep, the Italians will be certainly looking to spoil the party. They are not the favourites. The average score between the sides is 29-20 in favour of the Scots, and that's basically how the predictions are going. The Rugby Forecast algorithm says the Scots by 10, and the bookies say the Scots by 9, so pretty much along with the average that we see in recent times between the sides. It is a 3:10 kickoff on Saturday at Stadio Olimpico, which is like 3:10 in the morning for me in New Zealand, so it's a pretty horrible kickoff time, but I'll be getting up to watch it. There's a Kiwi involved, New Zealander Ben O'Keefe as the ref. Fingers crossed he has a good game. You guys let us know your thoughts. A slightly less conventional back three for the Scots, but I think a decently informed one. How do you think they will go? The Italians have got a few injuries, but they've got better depth than they have had in recent years. How do you think they're going to go? There's a Super Brew pool if you know your predictions. There is a Six Nations store if you want to buy rugby gear. Support the channel by using the link down there to the Six Nations shop if you want to get yourself some gear ahead of the comp. You guys let me know your thoughts on this one. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.